Amid warnings that biodiversity is in free fall, environmental leaders will gather in Montreal, Canada to hammer out measures aimed at shoring up the world's land and marine ecosystems. They also need to come up with tens of billions of dollars to fund these conservation efforts. Delegates from about 190 countries will assemble for nearly 2 weeks, starting Wednesday at the U.N Biodiversity Conference or COP15, to finalize a framework for protecting 30% of global land and marine areas by 2030. Currently, 17% of terrestrial and 10% of marine areas are protected.
Biodiversity loss is happening at alarming and catastrophic rates across the world, and it's largely being driven by human activity. So scientists have identified 5 major losses to biodiversity, and that includes habitat loss, climate change, invasive species, pollution, and also the exploitation of wildlife.
The meeting in Montreal is absolutely critical. They've got to decide how to conserve and even restore biodiversity. They have to get to grips with these 5 drivers. We need to minimise or eliminate all of these drivers for change. We have to also have protected areas in marine areas and terrestrial areas.
The proposed framework also calls for reducing the rate of invasive species introduction and establishment by 50%, cutting pesticide use in half, and eliminating the discharge of plastic waste. The goals, more ambitious than earlier ones, but not far behind, will be the issue of finance, with developing countries likely to push for significant monetary commitments before signing on to any deal. But not far behind will be the issue of finance, with developing countries likely to push for significant monetary commitments before signing on to any deal.
We need considerably more money to go into protecting nature as we know it. And we have to align what we do in the nature space, including fisheries and agriculture. We have to align that with these objectives. So the sort of stimulus and incentives that we have in our economies tend to drive us towards nature destructive activities. How can we align everything being nature positive, our financial flows, our investments, our subsidies?
Another $500 billion annually would come from doing away with the politically sensitive issue of subsidies that make food and fuel cheaper in many places. The UN conference will come less than a month after countries gather to tackle climate change, which agreed for the first time to pay the poor countries for the damage being caused by a warming planet.